Hail and welcome to the Crypt of the Necromancer. Unfortunately, Necromancer could not attend this off-the-cuff, very fast review of Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1. So right out the gate, spoilers. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to have the episode spoiled, please turn back now. There be spoilers here. So we start off the episode in a cave in the Middle East with an unknown armorer hammering away at a creation. Oh, no. Sorry. No, that's not right. It's not a cave in the Middle East like Tony Stark. It must be in a lab in Wakanda with an unknown armorer hammering away at her creation. I think I've messed up again. That's Riri Williams in Wakanda Forever. No, definitely not that. It must be Paz Vizsla hammering away at her creation in some unknown cave. This is definitely a Favreau thing. He seems to like, metallurgy and blacksmithy. So that's what they've gone with, this imagery of creation of some suit of armor. But in any event, we find that Paz Vizsla has started a new Mandalorian enclave, and she is making a helmet for one of the newest foundlings of her enclave. And she's going to bring it to him. And this will be, from this point forward, he will wear the helmet forevermore. Now, a few of the other YouTubers that I tend to watch have said, so, how do they shave? How do they eat? How do they wash? They're going to get head pimples and all that stuff. And of course, all these things I think are probably acceptable questions. But, just kind of let's suspend our disbelief. And I'm sure they have some exceptions as to when they can take the helmet off. So they go ahead and they're going to have this ceremony to give this new Mandalorian his helmet that he is never going to take off again. When suddenly a giant reptile creature attacks. They're on a beach, and out of the water pops this giant reptile, and he gobbles up a Mandalorian or two, and they start fighting this thing off. Now, can I just say, I love this sort of thing. This is fantastic. It's reminiscent of the old Harryhausen monster movies. You've got a bunch of warriors fighting an indomitable force. This force, their laser blasts are ineffectual. Their flamethrowers aren't working. We see a few projectiles aren't working either. Their grappling hooks don't work at all. And so we're having a hell of a scene here where they're just struggling against this thing. Awesome action. Well, we hear the kind of carrion call of the Mandalorian, and he swoops in his new ship. And that's that ship that was built for him on Tatooine last time we saw him in Mandalorian Season 2, or last time we were supposed to see him anyway, Mandalorian Season 2. And he fires on it, lets the salvo go, and then turns around and comes back. And the action, I've got to say, was excellent. They filmed it really well, whereby this ship coming around and it's not flying exactly smoothly. There are adjustments going on that he's making while he's on his flight path. You can see the ship is a bit twitchy, which is how like all high performance vehicles and ships are, right? And he's coming around, getting low level. He rolls level and fires off a couple of, I guess, torpedoes at the thing. And you can see the impact here in the photo. And mate, it strews the beach with reptile guts, and it was fantastic. I gotta say, it was a really exciting scene. So then we get the close-up as he lands, and we see here we are. There's Din Djarin, and of course there's Grogu, because if you didn't see Book of Boba Fett, you might be a little confused as to what's going on here. So those normies who just watched the end of Season 2 and have come back for Season 3 of The Mandalorian were experiencing a bit of a Marvel time jump, where, how Marvel does it, where if you didn't watch WandaVision, you might be a bit confused as to this whole multiverse thing they're doing. And if you didn't watch Loki, you might be confused as to what's going on in Ant-Man. So same kind of thing here. If you didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, well, guess what? So there's Grogu, and it's like the last episode of Season 2, which was The Rescue, where Luke Skywalker shows up and says he's going to take Grogu and train him as a Jedi. Well, if you didn't see what happened in Book of Boba Fett, you're going to be kind of confused, right? So we don't know why this happened. There's some rumors that, some of the executives at Lucasfilm, maybe it's executives at Disney, they've said, oh, well, this is our marketing, this is where all our money is being made right now with merchandising, pardon me, not marketing, in these Grogu dolls. But there are ways around that. I tend to think it's probably, and this is my opinion only, I don't have any proof, I kind of think that they just don't want Luke Skywalker around. They want to retcon Luke Skywalker out of Star Wars as best they can. So while he's a beloved hero by the vast majority of Star Wars fans, especially those of us who have been with Star Wars since the 70s, I think they're trying to get rid of him, trying to belittle him. And I don't think they're going to try to retcon the sequel trilogy. I mean, we can hope that that's the way they're going to go. When they turn Luke Skywalker into Jake Soywoker, a green milk drinking, manatee milk drinking quitter, basically. He turned into a quitter. Instead of being the hero that went through all the personal growth that we saw in the original trilogy. So that's to say Star Wars New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Now they're turning him into some Soywoker quitter hermit, who would kill his own nephew. So don't agree with that. And I think that's why we're seeing Grogu back here. I saw an awesome meme about the Mandalorian, where he's standing there with Paz Vizsla, and he says to Paz, she says to him, do you know why the Darksaber is so heavy? And he says, no. And she says, it's because you're carrying the franchise. And it's true. The Mandalorian is carrying the franchise. And even a middling episode like this, which I'll get into later, isn't doing its best. Anyway, so that's rant over. Sorry about that if you're not interested in the rant, but there it is. So he goes and has a chat with Paz in the cave, and she confirms that he is still no longer a Mandalorian because he removed his helmet. He confessed to removing his helmet, and he didn't lie about it. And he just is here for confirmation that if he bathes in the living waters in the mines beneath Mandalore, and they say that this is a destroyed and plundered and poisoned planet, that he can once again call himself a Mandalorian of this sect. So there's a little bit we'll talk about later about different sects of Mandalore, but basically, if he wants to remain one of the Mandalorian according to this group and how they see Mandalorians, he's going to have to go on this quest. So she sends him off on this quest. And we then jump to hyperspace, and he's got Grogu, like the Mandalorian is sleeping, and Grogu is just observing hyperspace. He's just looking around, and he sees these shapes in hyperspace, and they look like, well, I mean, I've highlighted them here in yellow. Unfortunately, on the still, you don't get the depth of what's actually going on, but they're definitely distinct shapes. They look like creatures in hyperspace. Now, they must have this here for a reason. They wouldn't put this scene here for nothing, so I'm sure this is going to come up later. And where is he going? Mando is going to Navarro, where he visits his old pal, Greef Karga, the guy who gave him the original contract to get Grogu, right? So it appears that, he keeps promoting himself. Now he's not just the magistrate, he's the supreme or grand magistrate or something like that. I know a few karate teachers that act that way. They just promote themselves whenever they feel they deserve it. So I guess that's what's happening here with Greef as well. There's a throwaway line about Cara Dune being recruited to the Special Forces. I don't know about you, but one of the major things that upsets me about how they've treated Star Wars is the treatment of the actress Gina Carano, right? For what we suspect are reasons. And when I say we, I don't know if you want to call it the fandom menace or the YouTube community, we suspect that it was her political stance that got her, I don't want to say fired, because was she fired? No, she just wasn't rehired for the role that she made popular. And I don't know if they're planning to recast it or if they're just going to just use this throwaway line to try to explain away where she is. I don't know what they're planning to do. But I'm going to tell you what, we're not going to forget how you treated Gina Carano. We may forgive, but that's going to require an apology. Most forgiveness requires an apology unless you're some type of messiah figure. I haven't seen an apology yet. So let me know in the comments what you think about this. But this is something that sticks in my craw. And every time I watch an episode of The Mandalorian, I'm going to be remembering how she was treated. So this is one of the things that, in my opinion, is probably going to keep Star Wars from becoming or reaching the popularity that it used to have back when it was an evergreen franchise, before Disney destroyed it, before Lucasfilm destroyed it with left-wing politics. This is not a political channel, but there is no question that Hollywood has become extremely political and preachy in the last 5 to 6 years. And quite frankly, we're not interested. We're not interested in that. We're not interested in you hiring people based on their politics. We're interested in good stories, awesome writing, exciting, engaging characters, character-driven stuff where we don't subvert expectations by destroying things that were created previously. Let's build upon things that were created previously, which is one of the reasons I enjoy Mandalorian. And I know that Necromancer enjoys Mandalorian as well, because it's not about subverting what's previously there or destroying what's previously there. It's about moving forward and building on things in the Star Wars universe. So here we are. He's back with his old buddy Greef. We get that throwaway line about Cara Dune being recruited to the Special Forces. Greef has got an issue now. He doesn't have a marshal. He offers the job to Mando, and Mando says, sorry, I've got other things going on. And while these conversations are going forward, Greef at one point, he again acknowledges what we all don't quite get about what's going on with Grogu. I thought you fulfilled your mission, Greef says. You know, you got this this little one to get training with the Jedi, and well, he came back. Well, it's kind of another throwaway line for those who didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, because it was handled so sloppily that there really isn't much you can do other than go back and say, no, that's not how it really happened. So, you know, they bring him back to Mandalorian again without a heck of a lot of training. I don't know if this was always the plan, or if you know, firing Gina Carano threw a monkey wrench in the works. I guess, you know, the truth is known by a select few in Hollywood, and we probably will never know exactly how this was supposed to go compared to how it's actually going. But it seems sloppy. While they're having this conversation, a droid comes in and says they're pirates causing some trouble. Let's go check out what's going on. So there are these pirates. They want to have a drink at the saloon, but the saloon has been converted into a school. We're now a respectable community. And no amount of hospitality offered by Greef Karga to this leader of the pirates is going to change his mind. The leader's name is Vane, the leader of the pirate group here that we see. And he says, you know, it was my boss's treasure, your cut of my boss's treasure that built this place. And now I want to have a drink here. So let's have a drink here. And, you know, Greef says, well, come to my office and, you know, I'll gladly give you a drink there. This is a school now. And the pirate doesn't back down. So, you know, when you run into this issue where somebody says it's going to be one way and somebody else says, no, it's not going to be that way, and nobody backs down, well, you really don't have many options, especially in a Western style story as we're getting here, Western / pirate story. You know, look at these guys in the background. This guy definitely looks like a pirate, almost Pirates of the Caribbean style. You can see there's a little bit of Disney influence there, in my opinion. So we go from Western to now we got a bit of pirates going on. And it's time to throw down, right? They've said, nope, we're drinking in the school. Greef says, sorry, try me. And so usually what happens when somebody becomes successful in a story, right, they get softer. And so this was my concern watching this when I'm locked into the story and I'm buying into it. Well, I guess Greef has gotten soft. He's got these big flowing red robes. He's still armed, thankfully. Doesn't have any security around him. his marshal is gone. Is he going to be able to stand up like he used to stand up? And thankfully, the answer is yes. And there's a draw, and he's still so good that he's able to shoot the pirate in the hand and make the pirate drop the gun. But we've got backup for the pirates. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. And all that Grief has got is Mando standing there with him. But fortunately, the two of them are superior fighters and take out the 4 backup pirates. So a little bit of mayhem going on there. The henchmen fall. They do mention the name of Vane's boss. They say the Pirate King Gorian Shard. He says, go back and tell the Pirate King Gorian Shard, even though he's well known among the whole sector, that pirates are no longer welcome on Navarro. Quite a Chad move. Pretty happy to see Chad moves being pulled. So excellent. After the fight, they walk back to the courtyard, the town square, and Mando says, "Oh, here's the statue of IG-11. I need a droid for what I'm busy doing. The reason why I can't be your marshal is I'm busy doing stuff, and I need a droid. And this is the last droid I trusted, IG-11, and I need his parts." So Grief Karga agrees, and he says, well, look, I mean, these are all the parts we found after he self-destructed. He's non-functional, but you can try to get him working. So Mando does. He tries to get IG-11 working. He powers him up, but once he powers him up, he immediately reverts to his previous directive, which was to terminate the asset when he was a bounty hunter. Before he was a nurse droid, he was a bounty hunter, and he was going to kill Baby Yoda as we knew him back then. And so he tries to kill Grogu again. So they incapacitate IG-11. And Grief says he's got some droid specialists that live in the area that can help. Now, these are the Babu Frick type creatures. If you don't know who Babu Frick is, in Rise of Palpatine, which is the last sequel trilogy movie that they made, there was a droid specialist named Babu Frick. And I got to say, man, anything that reminds me of that sequel trilogy leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Again, because of what they did to Luke Skywalker. My opinion of it is, sure, they would have been okay action movies and okay sci-fi movies if they weren't based in the Star Wars universe. But what you did is you went ahead and assassinated the characters that we knew and that we loved. And so I can't ever forgive you for that. You can retcon it, but they still happened. And they make Star Wars a bitter pill to swallow. And then you remind us of this bitter pill with these Babu Frick type creatures. And I understand that it really doesn't have anything to do with the sequel trilogy, but I see these things and I'm thinking there's no way they're going to retcon it. It's going to lead into the sequel trilogy. So why am I even bothering? And the answer is, I want to watch the train wreck. I want to watch the train wreck, just like I did with Rings of Power. I wanted to watch the train wreck. And man, I was so involved on Facebook and Twitter. And that was the first time the fandom stood up. They stood up while it was happening instead of after the fact, right? We are not going to give you a chance because we've seen this pattern. We see that you're going to buy this IP, intellectual property, and you're going to insert your own message in it. We've seen the precursors before. We now see your playbook. We know the pattern. You've tipped your hand. And I'm really, really expecting this to go the same way. There's no woke messaging in this, which is good. There's no inserted IDE, right, in this, which is good. It just seems to be a normal Star Wars universe. But then you give us these Babu Frick type creatures. I don't know. Sequel trilogy is what I'm thinking when I see this. There's my message. That's what I think about this. Anyway, so these droid specialist creatures, they can help. And I've got to say, though, there are a few gags here that I find really humorous. Like, look at the size of this room. It's awesome. It's kind of like, it's a bit reminiscent of Yoda's hut, right? On Dagobah in The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke hits his head on the bloody ceiling. because it's so bloody low. But of course, if you're creatures that are this size, you're not going to need a big freaking warehouse or hangar or workshop. So this is their little hangar. I love the little ladders and all the little tools all around here. I just think it's bloody fantastic. So I did enjoy, while I had that bitter taste in my mouth from seeing that these were Babu Frick style creatures, at the same time, I enjoyed them. So I'm a bit, what do they call that? Cognitive dissonance. I've got some cognitive dissonance going on in this one. And another gag that I thought was hilarious was that Baby Yoda kept trying to cuddle this thing because he thought it was like a pet. And so yeah, that was, I'm sure, a lot of the all the women who thought that sparkly vampires were very handsome and cute probably are also going to think this is very cute and lovable and cuddling. So I thought they handled that well. But they established that what they're going to need to repair this IG-11 droid is a new memory part. Then they don't have access to it. And so that's the next quest. So first quest is to bathe in the waters on the mines of Mandalore. Second quest is to repair IG-11 because he's going to need a droid he can trust. And so to do that second quest, he's going to need to now do a third quest, which is to find some memory bank repair part or original part for IG-11. So he leaves Navarro. And upon departing Navarro, he's starting to train Grogu a little bit in what it means to be a Mandalorian. It's not always fighting. It's also about navigation. And he gets ambushed by the pirates. So the pirates that, he dispatched 4 of them on the planet with Greef Karga. And Vane is leading these pirates. And he says, you can't get away with doing that, man. You cut down a few of my buddies, and that's it. We're coming for you. And, there's a space battle that ensues, and that's another really good action sequence. I'm not going to spoil that for you. It's much better to watch it. But needless to say, Mandalorian ends up behind Vane, and he's victorious, and he's nobody's shooting at him. But Vane uses a very old strategy to drag Mandalorian near his mothership, I guess, or his boss's ship. And so there it is. There's the pirate ship. I'm glad it doesn't have 3 masts and sails, because I've got to say, again, the vibe that I get when I watch this is Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean ride. There's your boss. There's the boss of the pirates, the Pirate King Goran Shard. Definitely Disney. He could easily be a villain from the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I mean, even look at the boots, right? Look at the cane. Look at the strange. I haven't ever seen this type of alien in the Star Wars galaxy. So anyway, if that's the way they want to go, my kids are going to love it, I'm sure. So they travel to Kalevala, which is a Mandalorian castle, or a planet, sorry. And they go to a Mandalorian castle on this planet, Kalevala. And it's supposed to be a planet in the Mandalorian sector, but Din Djarin says it's in the Mandalorian system. I suppose that's possible as well. Maybe my information is a bit off. And basically what he does at this castle, he gets out of his ship and walks up to the throne. And who is sitting on the throne but Bo-Katan? She's sitting up there on the throne, but has no entourage. So he tells Bo-Katan, who is played by the incomparable Katie Sackhoff, by the way. Can I just stop for a second and talk about Katie Sackhoff? What an excellent actress. Oh, fantastic in anything sci-fi. She's got this gravitas. When she wants to be sweet and lovely, she can be sweet and lovely. When she wants to challenge, she can challenge. And look at this expression on her face. She's just kind of sour. She doesn't seem to be sulky, but boy, is she sour. She's soured by Mandalorian. She told him in the last episode of The Rescue that she needed to fight Moff Gideon. She needed to win the Darksaber in battle. And Mandalorian won it in battle instead. And she knows that if he just gives her, according to the Mandalorian lore, if he just gives her the Darksaber and she doesn't fight to win it, that her rule will be cursed. Her rule will be cursed. And she will not be able to rule effectively. And so she knows if she wants it, She has to fight him for it. She has to win him in battle. So I question this. Like, why did that? So basically, let me tell you what's going on in the scene, and then I'll tell you why I question this. So basically, what's happened is, he's come to join Bo-Katan. He says, "I've come to join up with you," and she says, "Look, there's nothing left to join because I don't have the dark saber, and without the dark saber, my army." They've gone to be mercenaries, to make their way, make their living as mercenaries. They're off in space. They're not against me, but they've evaporated. My forces aren't here because I don't have the dark saber. Do you still have it? Because if you still have it, you can just wave it around and they'll do whatever you say. But I can't just, and this goes back to what they were saying in the rescue. So season 2, episode 8, which was chapter 16. You can't just give it to me. I have to win it from you in battle. And I told you that. So she's a little bitter, and understandably so. So she's given up on retaking Mandalore. And he says basically to her, well, I want to go bathe in the living waters of Mandalore. She says it's superstition. You're foolish. All that was our supply of Beskar steel, the mines, right? But you know what? You want to go try your luck on this, destroyed, poisoned planet. Go for your life. You're welcome to do it. If you really want to, go kill yourself, go for it. And she tells him where the waters are. She says they're below the Civic Center, or beneath the Civic Center in the city of Sindari. So he thanks her and leaves. And that's the end of the episode. They could have done so much with this. I'm hoping that that's where we go. Chris Gore from Film Threat said that they really should have, because he's part of the Access Media, right? He's considered a media reporter. So because he's part of the Access Media, he was able to see episode 1 and episode 2, whereas us, normal peons, the peasants, we only get to see episode 1. He said it would have been better if they'd shown both episodes, if they'd released both episodes. Because I got to say, and this seems to be the case with most people reviewing this, that it's pretty middling. It's not great. It doesn't knock it out of the park. It doesn't do that lightning in a bottle. When you think of the last actual episode of The Mandalorian we get, Luke Skywalker showed up and defeated a heap, 20 dark troopers, and dark trooper version 2, droid dark troopers, which were freaking unbeatable. And he comes and he makes mincemeat of them. And we're thinking, could it be Luke? We see the X-Wing coming. And I was thinking, could it be Luke? No, they wouldn't use Luke. Could it be Luke? No, Kathleen Kennedy hates Luke. They wouldn't make it Luke, would they? Can't be Luke. It's got to be somebody else. And I see the cloak and I think, it looks like Return of the Jedi Luke. But, they love to subvert expectations. That's what they do. And I've been fooled so many times. It can't be Luke. It's not Luke. And you see his glove. And you see the proper Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi lightsaber. And you think, there's only one guy who's got a lightsaber like that. And it's green. And he's got the glove. And he's moving like Luke. And he's using his hands like Luke uses his hands. But I still didn't believe it. And I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to believe it, sorry, but I didn't want to get tricked again, right? Like they tricked us in the sequel trilogy. And he comes up and the elevator doors open and he takes off his hood and it's Luke Skywalker. And the triumph, the feeling of recognition that finally they're giving us the hero Luke that we saw develop over the original trilogy, and we're finally getting this character back. And I thought, fan-bloody-tastic. And they set up a conflict between Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian in that same episode. They set up a conflict, and it seems to me like, again, now they just dropped the bloody ball. They set up Cara Dune to be a ranger of the New Republic, and they dropped the ball, or somebody stole the ball out from under them, or somebody pulled the ball away like Lucy used to do when Charlie Brown would come and try to kick the football. So I've got to say, man, mixed feelings on this episode. Some good things, some really missed opportunities, You could have done a lot better, in my opinion. You could have done a lot worse, in my opinion. At least it's not as bad as, Vespa riding cyborgs like we had in Book of Boba Fett. And, you know, all these bloody Bacta tank flashbacks. But I don't know. I've got to say, I don't know. I guess I'll keep watching. It hasn't turned me right off it like Rings of Power did. But what am I giving it? 6.5 out of 10, probably. Probably like the first episode of Picard. 6.5 out of 10. When I say Picard, I mean Picard season 3, episode 1. This is about the same. Is it enough to keep me watching? Marginally, barely. We're okay, fine. But how do you win that? You win that by having awesome actors like Katie Sackhoff on the screen. How did Picard season 3 keep me watching? Awesome actors like Jerry Ryan on the screen. And Jonathan Frakes didn't do a bad job either. So I guess we'll continue with it, and we're going to have to wait another week to see how it goes. Let me know what you thought about it if you saw this episode. If you loved it and you have a different opinion than me, yeah, by all means, please put that comment in there. I'd like to hear you tell me why you thought it was awesome and excellent. Maybe I'm being hypercritical. If you thought it was absolute rubbish, please tell me as well. I'd like to see. And I'm really interested to see what Necromancer thinks about this. But I'm going to pop this video up and hope that Necromancer is able to record a review with me, in which case we'll put that on the channel as well. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe if you liked the video. And if you didn't like it, thanks for sticking around and listening to me babble on by myself. Please hit the bell for notifications if you are subscribed, and that way you can see our new videos. It's our intention to review all of season 3 of Picard and all of season 3 of The Mandalorian. So thanks again, all the best, and catch you on the flip side.